Unofficial results in Turkey show that the opposition candidate has won Istanbul's mayoral race. Jamaica's late Prime Minister Edward Seaga has been laid to rest during a state funeral. Hundreds of thousands celebrate in Brazil during Sao Paulo's Pride Parade. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Paulo, and this is From the South. We start in Turkey, where with nearly 100% of votes counted for Istanbul's mayoral elections, the ruling party's candidate has conceded defeat. Preliminary results show that candidate for the opposition CHP party, Ekrem İmamoğlu, obtained 54% of the votes. İmamoğlu narrowly won the initial election in March, but those results were officially annulled due to the narrow nature of his victory and a number of reported irregularities. The candidate for the ruling AK party, Binali Yildirim, has congratulated his rival on the victory. Meanwhile, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan took to Twitter to congratulate İmamoğlu on his decisive victory, saying, quote, "I hope the outcome of the rerun of the mayoral election will be good for Istanbul. Once again, the people's will is revealed. I congratulate İmamoğlu, who won the election according to unofficial results." In Ethiopia, the army chief and the regional governor of Amhara region have been killed during a failed coup attempt. General Siari Mekonnen and another officer were shot dead by their own bodyguard as they were trying to prevent the coup attempt. The government says the attack was linked to the assassination of the governor of Amhara a few hours earlier in the city of Bahir Dar. Ambachu Mekonnen was killed at a meeting in his office along with his senior advisor. The region's attorney general was also present but was left seriously wounded.
The Chief of Staff of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, General Sa'ara Mekonnen, together with retired Major General Gazai Abarra, were also attacked within the home of General Sa'ara Mekonnen. This was happening within his residence. And this heinous crime was committed by the bodyguard of General Sa'ara Mekonnen himself. Both of them sustained heavy wounds and as a result have passed on.
During a televised address, Ethiopia's Prime Minister has said that those involved in the coup attempt are under arrest and operations are in progress to detain others.
The people of Ethiopia do not believe in silencing, killing and claiming power by spilling the blood of their brothers and sisters. They believe power should be obtained only through democratic means, unity and sacrifice. They don't accept totalitarian regimes. They've shown that through a common struggle. As we built for democracy in past years, they have rejected these efforts to silence people in a unified voice.
Protest leaders in Sudan have agreed to the proposal of Ethiopia's Prime Minister and have accepted the creation of a civilian majority body for a political transition. The Ethiopian leader suggested the creation of a 15-member governing body comprising of 8 civilians and 7 members of the military.
We accepted the proposal presented by the mediator, which includes all the basics of the transition period and the need to create a suitable atmosphere to resume the political process.
Meanwhile, Sudan's military council has rejected Ethiopia's proposal. The military has since called on Ethiopia and the African Union to unify their efforts to mediate between the two on the structure of the how to govern the country. Talks between the protest leaders and the military collapsed when security forces stormed a sit-in outside the army complex, killing dozens.
I would like to say in this regard that before receiving this proposal, we received a different one from the African Union, and we thought it was a joint proposal. Our answer was that we accepted in principle and that it could be subject to negotiations. It is also worth saying that we met with a representative from the European Union on Wednesday.
We move to Peru, where alternative media outlet Wake Up has published an investigation based on complaints from 30 former workers from the Yanacocha mine, South America's largest gold mine located near the city of Cajamarca. The former workers say they have been affected by toxic metals as they were not provided with the proper protection or protective equipment.
For years, they stay silent, in fear of losing their jobs. Now, all the laid-off workers from the Yanacocha mine have left is the damage done by toxic metals to their bodies.
Pollution from the limestone was a constant, 24 hours, every day, because that mine never stopped.
We did everything around mass amounts of mercury in that area. We're talking about 80,000 kilos of mercury.
There are 30 former workers with the same medical issues. Another 26 who still work for the mine prefer to remain silent, out of the fear of losing their jobs.
I suffer from chronic toxicity at a level of 97% according to analysis that have been made in the United States. Among the metals I've been poisoned with are arsenic, mercury, zinc, aluminum, and silver.
So far, there is no available medical treatment for toxic metals. For affected workers, they may only receive payment as reparations for the damage done to them. But the top gold mining company in Latin America has so far refused to acknowledge the damage they have caused on their workers. This, according to Álvaro Meneses, an investigative journalist from the Waica.pe outlet who investigated the case after collecting victims' testimonies.
There has been no attempt at giving them any compensation. What the defense is saying is that these are isolated cases. And an important thing that weighs against those affected is that so far they can't prove that they were contaminated from inside the mine. That is the biggest argument that the people at Yanacocha is using to defend themselves.
While the legal process has been delayed, the Ministry of Labor has only sanctioned the mine for not providing appropriate security equipment to their workers. On top of this, according to official figures, there are 332 cases of people affected by heavy metals in the Bambamarca province, where the Yanacocha mine operates.
We'll take a short break now. When we come back, Jamaica's Edward Seaga has been laid to rest. Don't go away. Thousands of people attended the state funeral for Jamaica's 5th Prime Minister, Edward Seaga, the last survivor of the generation of politicians who led the country to independence from Britain in 1962. The service was officiated by 13 religious leaders before a burial ceremony at National Heroes Park. Current Prime Minister Andrew Holness paid tribute to Seaga in a doting speech. He recalled that Seaga, who served as the country's leader in 1980 to 1989, ensured that he never forgot the poor. Holness also noted that Seaga didn't work in culture, sports, education, justice, the economy, music, and more. Seaga was laid to rest with a 19-gun salute. He lost his battle to cancer on his 89th birthday on May 29.
We pay tribute to a great leader, a conscious leader, a statesman, a visionary and a thinker, a man of dignity, order and excellence, an indefatigable spirit, a man with the courage of his conviction, a modern man, an architect, a teacher, a father, a mentor, a friend, a man for all seasons, a man for all peoples.
Jamaica has been ranked #1 in all of Latin America and the Caribbean for its public-private sector partnerships in infrastructure. That's according to British company the Economic Intelligence Unit in its 2019 Infrascope report. Public-private partnerships involve collaboration between a government agency and a private sector company that can be used to finance, build and operate projects such as public transportation, networks, parks and convention centers. Jamaica's Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark said it was a milestone achievement.
In all of Latin America, including Brazil and Mexico and Argentina and Chile and Colombia and Trinidad, DOMREP and Jamaica, Jamaica ranks number 4 by the Economist Intelligence Unit in PPPs. As far as the business and investment climate, they rank us as number 5 in Latin America. As far as the maturity of our PPP environment, we are ranked as number 1 in the entire Latin American unit. Now, that is not something that I am saying. That is from the Economist Intelligence Unit. And they do so on the basis, the ranking of the maturity is on the basis of our laws and on the basis of the regulation that people can come here with confidence, enter into long-term 35-year contracts with the government of Jamaica, as they have done for highways, they've done for ports, they've done for airports, and operate with confidence.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, has slammed the United States for its hypocrisy as it relates to its own immigration issues. This as the U.S. State Department placed the Caribbean island at Tier 2 in its 2019 Trafficking in Persons report. That report gave Trinidad an F grade for failing to screen Venezuelan migrants entering the country for possible human trafficking.
We got an F, they say. Well, if I was marking their paper, what would I give them? They have the same problem that we have. Thousands of migrants rushing your border, wanting to come into your country because they see a greener grass on your side than on their side. That is the #1 political issue in America. Hundreds of thousands of people, and their own people are telling you that those people, some of them, are treated like dogs and cattle. Children are dying on the border, some of them in cages. 100 people in a room that was made for 10. The temperature is 41 degrees. And of course, they have a bigger military, they got a bigger security system, they got an army, a navy, an air force, and they got a bigger treasury than Trinidad and Tobago. How have they handled their situation better than ours?
The Prime Minister further noted that Trinidad and Tobago has opened its borders to Venezuelan nationals, registering 15,000 people that are now authorized to work for 1 year. He said Trinidad, as a small twin island state, has done more for migration than the developing world.
Do not feel beaten down by those who will measure you by an F, because we have done more than most countries that manage migrations into their border. Go to Europe, the developed world, and see what happened to Africans who come into southern Europe, out of Africa, into Italy, into Germany, into France. See what the news says about that. We get an F. Ladies and gentlemen, we mark our own paper. This Trinidad and Tobago, we stand on our own strength, on our own principles.
People in Honduras have buried the 3rd victim of military violence since protests calling for the president's resignation have restarted in the country. The latest victim is a 17-year-old who was killed during a demonstration in the city of La Paz as the army follows orders given by President Juan Orlando Hernandez. Our correspondent in Tegucigalpa, Gilda Silva-Strusi, has more. Amidst feelings of anger and pain, 17-year-old Eblin Noe Correa was laid to rest by his family. He was killed by military police during a demonstration on Thursday night in La Paz.
I used to whistle at him to call him over, and he'd ask me, "What do you need, Daddy?" They took away my son.
Look at what's happening to Honduras. We have a dictator who's killing us off. I would give anything to have taken the bullet that killed my nephew.
Following a strike by the nation's riot police, President Juan Orlando Hernandez ordered the military to take to the streets. The army officials used live rounds of ammunition to disperse protesters, leaving 3 dead and 21 injured in 24 hours.
What shocked us was how they arrived. They came in like criminals, hit their cars on a dark road, just like when they hire hitmen come to kill somebody. They got out of their cars and started shooting at protesters.
Despite military violence in many communities, people have not been swayed from taking to the streets. They demand that President Juan Orlando Hernandez resign. Meanwhile, protest leaders strongly condemn the actions taken by the military.
We demand that human rights be respected. We call on the UN's Human Rights Commission to condemn these acts. The state is killing us. We are being repressed.
We are seeing a heightened need for the government to repress citizens and maintain power. But what's most infuriating, it's international community's failure to react.
From the streets, protesters say they will continue fighting for citizens' rights and against the privatization of public institutions, in particular health and education.
Teachers and citizens as a whole are going to continue protesting. 10 years after the 2009 coup, Hondurans are advancing their fight. We are not afraid of tear gas or even bullets.
Teachers and health workers' unions have made continuous calls for strike action against what they call a dictatorship. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, has concluded her official visit to Venezuela. She met with high-level government officials after her arrival on Wednesday at the invitation of President Nicolas Maduro. President Maduro spoke about the visit on Friday, saying it was a positive one.
I think it was a good visit. She came after we extended an invitation in November of last year. We wanted to establish new working relationships with the Office of the High Commissioner. We wanted to improvise this relationship as it had deteriorated with the previous High Commissioner for Human Rights, who took a political stance against the Bolivarian Revolution. The former commissioner would attend events with the Venezuelan opposition in New York and would not defend our people's rights. So we hope with these visits, things will ultimately improve.
Community councils in Colombia's Valle de Cauca department have collected all available information of paramilitary activity in their lands. They delivered these reports to the Special Jurisdiction for Peace in hopes of establishing just how involved the government is for the armed conflict.
Afro-Colombian communities in Valle del Cauca gave the Special Jurisdiction for Peace 2 reports about paramilitary incursions in their land and about the complicity of the state in attacking communities between the years 2000 and 2005.
This report shows the extent of paramilitary presence in our community. They have massacred, displaced, and raped our people. But what shocked us was the complicity of the state, in particular the 3rd Valley Brigade, who operated with paramilitary leaders. We got to see how they singled out our leaders so they could be murdered.
This report by communities unveiled political and social interests that have led to countless massacres and forced displacement.
With this report, we want to stop the complicity of third parties, such as large companies that operate in the north of the valley. They sponsor and pay off paramilitaries so they can murder and displace us from our lands. This is a political issue. It even involves the governor of Cauca and his links to paramilitaries.
Courage is what identifies these communities. In the face of illegal armies, state abandonment, and continued murders, they insist on their fight for truth and justice.
Simply put, these are the same structures, the same ideologies and interests from 20 years ago to justify what was the most severe attack against the population. Our challenge is to showcase the demands of communities so that laws can be changed and impunity can finally end.
In just 1 year, the Special Jurisdiction for Peace has received over 200 reports on the victims of the armed conflict from at least 20 departments across Colombia. A fact that proves socio-political violence is widespread and systematic.
We have discovered how these crimes are being repeated in many places, behaviors that repeat at a national level, paramilitaries working together across territories and sharing their methods.
The process of amassing reports from the almost 8 million victims of the armed conflict will last 2 years. After this period, the Special Jurisdiction for Peace will have the colossal task of identifying those responsible for the violence and finally provide truth, justice, and reparations for victims.
After the break, Brazil holds the world's largest pride parade. Join us again after this. Welcome back. The death toll from Saturday's building collapse in Cambodia has risen to 18. So far, only one survivor has been found in the wreckage. Authorities said that as of Sunday, half of the debris at the site has been cleared. It is reported that about 60 people were in the building. At least 14 people have been killed in India after heavy rains and a thunderstorm caused a huge tent to collapse in the Burma district. 50 others have been injured and were rushed to the hospital. People had gathered for a religious event inside the tent when the incident occurred. According to authorities, some died after being electrocuted by live electricity wires as the tent collapsed, while others were hit by falling debris.
There was a religious gathering when strong winds uprooted the tent, and an electric current spread all over the collapsed tent. This resulted in the death of 14 people. Nearly 25 are injured, who are being treated in the hospital.
Still in India, authorities have announced that the bodies of 7 climbers who went missing last month have been found in the Himalayas. 4 Britons, 2 US citizens, an Australian and an Indian made up the group, who had been attempting to climb India's second highest peak. A rescue team is still searching for the body of an 8th climber. Contact with the climbers was lost on May 26th, as it is believed the mountain was hit by avalanches when they were trying to scale one of the peaks.
Yes, the ITBP mountaineers have today discovered the 7 dead bodies, believed to be of the missing mountaineers near an unnamed peak near the Nanda Devi East Mountain District, Pithoragarh. The 7 bodies include of a woman also. The search of the 8th missing mountaineer will be carried out tomorrow. These bodies were traced at an altitude of approximately 21,000 feet near the peak from where the mountaineers were reported missing on 26th May 2019.
And from the Cricket World Cup in the United Kingdom, South Africa have been knocked out of the World Cup as Pakistan inflicted a 5th defeat on the struggling team by 49 runs at Lord's. That should be Haris Sohail's 89 and Babar Azam's 69. So Pakistan made 308 for 7 after they won the toss, leaving South Africa at 259 for 9. South Africa's bid to avoid the World Cup elimination got off to a nervy start as they lost their opener Hashim Amla for 1 in the second over. For the second time in their history, South Africa will fail to reach the World Cup knockout stages. Pakistan, meanwhile, who had some amazing and woeful times in their 6 games, have climbed to 2 places to the 7th on the table. And today we end in Brazil, where hundreds of thousands took to the streets of Sao Paulo for the city's annual Pride Parade. Revelers flooded Paulista Avenue for the 23rd consecutive year in what is widely known to be the world's largest gay pride parade. First started in 1997, when only a couple thousand participants took part, Sao Paulo's parade has grown exponentially through the years, attracting people from all over the world. For many, this year's edition has special significance, given the rise of the far right in Brazil and the often homophobic discourse of President Jair Bolsonaro.
It's a natural thing for human beings to have respect and love for each other. This is a celebration party, and we are here to be able to defend this cause and hope for a better future and for our Brazil to have more love for each other.
We've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Doris Paulo. Thank you for watching.